B2B Cambodia, the portal for business use in Cambodia.
Can you share a little bit about how the capital markets here have evolved? When did they start, and some basic statistics on the current market size, participation, and things like that?
Yeah, the stock market started in 2000, so it celebrated its 25th anniversary this year. There were 4 companies on the stock market when it first started, and it did take quite a long time to get going. There was a reasonable number of companies on the market prior to the 2007 global financial crisis, and then things struggled a little bit. A lot of the early companies that were listed were state-owned enterprises, actually, because the government went through an equitization process, which moved those, or not the whole companies. In many cases, the government is still a large shareholder in a lot of the public companies today, even VinaMilk. There are actually 3 stock markets in Vietnam. They're in the process of merging them all together, and it'll be a lot more efficient, obviously, if they can do that. But across those 3 markets, there's 1,700 companies. The total market capitalization is $260 billion. On trading volume and market size, it's the 4th largest in Southeast Asia. The nice thing about the market is it's across all industries, although it's largely dominated by financial services. About 40% of the market cap is banks. There are a lot of banks in Vietnam. And then real estate companies make up another 10 to 15%.
So to also ask a little bit more about the capital markets, because in Cambodia, they're still quite young. I only started in 2012, and it's not a very active market yet. Not a lot of investors are in the market yet. And so there's definitely a lot that Cambodia could learn from Vietnam's example, even if, of course, the scale is completely different given the different population sizes. But what were some maybe challenges that the market faced here in the sort of early days when the capital markets were just kicking off in Vietnam? And what were some of those challenges that Vietnam was able to overcome? And what would be some things like new frontier markets like Cambodia, even Laos, could learn from Vietnam?
Look, I think all markets, when they start, they go through. It can be very challenging, and there's a learning curve, right? And the key is to get through that learning as quickly as possible, to accelerate it. A very obvious one in Vietnam was in the early days is governance, and I would say we're not there yet either compared to other markets. But when it comes to governance in Vietnam, there are a lot of issues in the early days around company owners not really understanding what responsibilities they had in terms of reporting performance or up-to-date accurate information, all these things, to their shareholders, that they were now accountable to another constituent, not just themselves as owners. And it took a fair amount of time to build awareness. It's actually only recently, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, that the body in in Vietnam was created called the Institute of Directors, right? And which actually provides educational services to people sitting on these boards and acting as independent directors, which is a really important part of governance. But even getting independent directors on boards in the early days was very, very difficult. So there's a evolution that markets go through, particularly around governance. And it takes a long time for this to happen. But I would encourage measures to have more companies listed. I think company owners that are private need to understand the benefits of listing their companies in terms of access to capital and actually enhancing the quality of their companies overall. A company that's listed gets a bit more attention, it gets more customers. There's lots of benefits for listing your company. And I think it took a long time for business owners in Vietnam to appreciate that. And still many don't. They'd rather just keep their businesses private.
Well, Brook, this has been a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Just to close off the interview, could you please share how you see the future of Vietnam going forward now from 2025 onwards? And for those who want to learn more about Vietnam, obviously through this conversation and through other sources, where can they find out more?
Sure. Look, at least for the next 10 years, I think Vietnam has a very, very exciting future. As we've discussed, the government is committed to growing the economy at a much, much higher pace than what we've seen in the past. And I strongly believe that they'll be able to do that. So we're going to see the next 20 years, 10, 20 years, we're going to see even more change in Vietnam than what we've seen in the last 20 years. Right. And I have an extreme degree of confidence that that will actually happen. Well, in terms of that resource, I would suggest if people are interested in knowing more about what's happening in Vietnam and why this growth trajectory is so certain, I'd encourage them to read my book, right, Vietnam, Asia's Rising Star.
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thank you very much.
You've been with B2B Cambodia. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more from our Vietnam series.